All right, so this video we're going to be looking at pacing specifically for the AP Biology class. In the last video I did on pacing with AP classes in general, and for this class it's AP Bio specific because that's what I teach. Let's do this. So here's the AP Bio course at a glance. Again, I used this picture in the last video because it was there and it was already done, and it's got all the units and they're all there. And I actually use the course and exam description document quite a bit just to help to kind of ground me, to make sure I'm going over the right things. I actually do use this structure for my class, and I use each of the sections because it's what the students have access to. It's what any review materials they may purchase is going to be based off of. And so I try to keep everything aligned so that they don't have to guess where I am. And of course, AP Classroom and all their materials online are going to be based off this as well. And so it just makes everything nice and tidy. I used to have my own system, and so I drifted back toward using theirs, and I just love it. So that's that. I guess one secret to pacing is to just use what's available to you. Now, I'm not really into their pacing guides and their suggested amount of time. See, it says that at the top, class periods and all that. I don't even know if mine lines up with that. Now, I do pay attention to the exam weighting. I think that's important. But in general, I kind of do things my own way, and I think it kind of pans itself out pretty well. So let's look at this. This is an important figure, and this is probably going to be different for most school districts, even school districts in Kentucky. In Kentucky, we're required to go so many hours of school per year, which I'm sure is that way in the same in other states. And for our school district, that translates to 175 instructional days. Teachers are required to have more contracted days than that, of course, but then we have our students for 175 days, and we have 50-minute class periods. And so that multiplies to, 8750 is how many minutes I have my students, which is a lot of minutes. It's a lot of days, but we all know that those days are fraught with all kinds of things like school-related events and, of course, sicknesses and that sort of thing. And so we have to schedule appropriately. If you watch the last video, kind of give my philosophies on those things. And I think it's a helpful kind of presupposition to how I think about it. But as just far as content breakdown and everything, that's what I'm going to be going into this video. But this is important to understand. This is my context. I have 175 days. And in this particular year, actually, the AP exam is on our last day of school, which is really strange. We're in the middle of the country, so we get out of school around the middle of May. I know a lot of the country gets out in June, but that's just how we are. We start in early August, and you guys probably start in September, and I know everybody's different. And so you have to do what's best for you. And so hopefully this can help you. So let's look at this. So here's my unit breakdown. I start with Unit 0, which is just a basic stats overview. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it because, frankly, the AP exam doesn't spend a whole lot of time on it. There may be one or two things that the student will have to know as far as like chi-square or something like that. You may get I do go over chi-square and I teach them how to do it, and we spend some time on it, and we use it several times throughout the year. But I'm not going to devote a week to it for maybe so that they can get 2 questions right. And so I do teach them how to do it, but I think a lot of times we overemphasize things that just aren't there as much as we'd like them to be. And so that's Unit 0, 7 days, and you can see that I don't have to read that to you. Unit 6 is genetics, and Unit 7 is evolution, and the weight of the exam is going to be on these 2 things. I think in evolution in particular, you're going to see almost every FRQ is going to have some sort of bent to it toward evolution, and a lot of them are going to have some sort of genetic bent to them as well. And so these 2 units really are the foundational units for the whole course, and that's why they're up against the exam. And Unit 8, of course, is ecology, which is a really short unit, really not a hard unit either, because the students have a lot of background in biology by the time I get to them. Not necessarily in biology. For a lot of them, I've taught them as honors biology students and as freshmen, but then just science in general. They've learned these terms, ecology. This is not, an AP The AP course doesn't really complicate things. It's a pretty simple unit, but the rest of the units are pretty straightforward. You can see Unit 1, Biochem. I don't spend a lot of time on it, 9 days. There's no reason to spend 2 months going over that stuff. There's no reason to do it. And so there's my unit breakdown. Really simple, straightforward. If you add all that up, it doesn't come to 175 probably, because there's some other days built in. We're going to talk about those. Okay. So my course is a lecture course. I have tried the flipped classroom. It was not successful. I've tried lots of methods, frankly, and the way that students learn is when you are up front teaching them their content. I don't know what else to say on this. I know lecture gets pooped on a lot in education classes and that sort of thing, but in general, students are going to learn when you are up front teaching them. Now, is every student going to learn that way? No. And I understand. Or they have bad days. They walk in your classroom, they're not going to listen to you today because whatever's happened to them at home or at school or whatever. We know. And so that's why I have other means for them to learn. I have my videos and all this other stuff for them to learn outside of class if they need to. But in general, everything they need to learn is taught by me from the front of my classroom at some point in the year. That's the facts. I can't get away from that. And all of the master teachers that I know do it that way, and I'm sure that there's some people out there that are able to flip their classroom, and it's just so amazing, and I'm sure that's great, and I don't take anything away from those people. I in some ways envy them, because it is a lot of work to lecture. It's a lot of work to stand up in front of the class, but for my setting, my students, this is what they want. I teach at one of the best high schools in the state of Kentucky, and this is what my students want. We have a university nearby. We have a big hospital in town, and so this is the type of base that we have. Yours may be different. I would suggest that the flipped classroom does require that students are going to put a lot of effort in at home, and I've noticed more and more that is not going to be increasing. I don't believe the students' desire to work at home. And so I present for them the material, and they can take it or leave it. And that is the way I do it. Now, a lot of days end up being shorter days just because of the curriculum. And so some days are longer than others. But in general, students have about 15 minutes at the end of class that they can work on materials. I will post like AP classroom questions for them, like the review questions and whatnot. They're not for grade or anything. It's just for students to have some exposure to the types of questions they're going to see on the exam, on my exams and on the AP exam. And then I also will combine sections. Some of the sections you're familiar with, I'm sure if you use the course exam description, some of the sections are just simply review, stuff that you already covered, or really short sections that don't cover a lot of material. And so you can combine those. I'm getting ready to do that tomorrow. I'm getting ready to combine 3 sections into one day. So it's going to buy some time to give them some more time to work on another assignment, like work on our lab report that we just completed a lab. And so that's the way I think about it. It's around 75 days, give or take a few days, that we spend in the lecture. Labs are around 25 days. Now, I recognize that they want you to spend 25% of your year in the lab, which for me would be around 43 days. Another 18 days in the lab would be great. It'd be ideal. I think that's another 4.5 days per 9 weeks. I think that would be great. But frankly, I don't see how that would better prepare my students for the exam. Again, this is my 12th year doing this, and I have done the 25% thing before, and I've had one set of results, and I've taught them more and had another set of results. And so I'll use those extra days to give them more FRQs, to give them more skills practice of the skills. And so you could probably call those lab days. I guess if you wanted to, you could call it a lab. I mean, some of the things that get called labs nowadays, I'm shocked. So I think that you can just, you can do what you want with this number. But for me, this has worked. And I usually have my students write a formal lab report for 3 of our 4 9-week grading periods. And usually I don't have them write one on the last grading period because generally frankly, because Unit 7 and Unit 8 exams are easier, and they don't need the grade bump, and then we spend so much time reviewing that we don't really have time to write a paper. So there's that. I spent 21 days doing FRQs with my students. This is actually new this year. We smashed the exam last year, just did phenomenal. My students did. But we were lower in our FRQ. And so I am using that as a way to kind of say, okay, we need to spend more time doing this. And so we're going to learn how to answer FRQ questions. I think because of my own lax style, sometimes I'm not as helpful as I could be in showing them how to exactly and more specifically answer these questions. We destroyed the multiple choice, just absolutely wrecked it, like top of our class and everything in the state and even in the country. And FRQ, we were not. And so we're going to spend some time on doing some FRQ. And the way I've done it this year, it's been great. Have the students kind of look at the scores guides and see this is what the AP graders are going to be looking at, and helping them to see, okay, this is how you should think about this question. And I let them grade their own. Of course, I go back over them. Usually I find myself giving the students more points than they thought they deserved. And so it's been a really helpful exercise. And so this is what we're going to do this year. We're going to spend a lot of time doing FRQ. We have 35 weeks, and so 21 of those we will end with an FRQ. Moving on. Exams. I have 8 exams. Units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All have an exam, and each one of them have a review day associated with it. And so I put a review day in front of every exam. It's a day that students have 50 minutes in my class to study. They have a lot going on in their lives, and so I try to give them at least one class period to where they can study, ask questions, and whatnot. I'm available for tutoring every morning. I get there before the bell rings, about 45 minutes before the bell rings, and so I'm available for tutoring each morning. Of course, I have my videos online, and but I do let them have a full day of class in order to ask questions. This is pretty straightforward. I've had people ask me for my exams and that sort of thing. I'm not going to send those out. The moment I send them out, they'll be on the internet a second later. It's not because I don't trust you, but that just seems to happen, and so I'm not doing that. But I do use resources that are out there. There's so many resources that are out there for exam writing and that sort of thing, and so I encourage you to look at those. But my exams take the whole class period. They're around 15 multiple choice and usually one of the bigger FRQs, and the students have more than enough time to finish that. And so there you go. That's my exam days. Moving on. Skills practice. So I have the Hardy-Weinberg graph here for you to ponder. And so this is like what I mean by that. So like skills practice would be practicing things like Hardy-Weinberg or chi-square, or the some of the things that we look at, graphing, which is a big deal. We're going to spend a lot more time in graphing this year, actually. Probably take some of those FRQ days and put them towards skill days, actually, because we did not do well on that second FRQ last year. And so that's part of the pacing is that you figuring out, okay, this has to change, right? Because we can't do that. I have an obligation to make sure that they're best prepared, and I failed them in my obligation to prepare them for the graphing portion of the exam last year, and so we're going to do better. And so that would be an example of a skill that you would have to use until they change that. And so anything like that, I kind of put in this skills-based practice. This could probably be construed as lab work as well. I don't know why not. So I think that this works really well there. And then lastly is the AP exam review. So I have 16 days scheduled right now on this side of the test to study for the exam, and it's just back to back. We finish Unit 8 exam, and then we take the we take the AP exam in May at the same time as everyone else. We have 16 days to do that. Now this number will probably be shorter by the time we get there because of snow days and that sort of thing. And 16 days is a lot. I would be happy with 10 to 12, and so there's some flex there. If it gets much below, if it starts getting closer to 10, I'll start thinking about cutting some other things out. because I want them to have that time. And I try to go through 3 practice exams with them, just the stuff that's available in AP Classroom, and I'll try to go through 3 full exams with them before that. I don't do a mock exam with my students. I don't think it's helpful. In fact, I think it's harmful. And in my experience, that students will take that mock exam and kind of either A, feel deflated from it, or B, feel inflated from it. And either way, it's just not helping. It's not. I've given them a lot of exposure to questions throughout the year, and sitting for a 3-hour exam before you sit for a 3-hour exam, just don't know if that's helpful. Your mileage may vary, but that is my experience with it. So that is it for my pacing guide. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If it was, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, please ask down below in the comment section. I would love to hear from you.